Storygram Network.
Folks, save the date. Trash and Fashion Sonoma is back in April 2023. And this year, the Trash and Fashion Runway Show is on April 22nd, actual Earth Day. Also coming back, Trash and Barbie's Gallery and Auction, opening April 13th. And the Trash Bash and Dogs on the Catwalk on April 29th.
That's
Gerardo laughs, but it is a fun experience.
I was here last year. It was really fun. It was really fun taking pictures.
It's great. So when you hear this, mark your dates, save those dates. But what's happening right now is applications are open for Trash and Fashion outfits, as well as Barbie applications and Dogs on the Catwalk, which you can find all on our Sonoma community website, sonomacommunitycenter.org/trash and fashion, or events. You will find it. Get your applications, and I hope everybody's thinking about their outfit now.
Hey, you know how much it costs?
We're not there yet, but we do have sponsors. This is a really fun community event, so check out. I'm looking for artists right now. Share the word. Barbies are open to the entire age ranges, and the actual Trash and Fashion Show is open to students and adults 9+.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like it.
Turn your trash into treasure, folks. Hello, we are the Sonoma Community Center podcast, a place of creativity, connection, and community. We highlight the artists, teachers, and the community that come through the doors of our historic brick building, often called the heart of Sonoma. We share local tips and shout outs to our home, Sonoma Valley. And we are your host, Molly Spencer.
Gerardo Diaz.
We are the engagement team of the Sonoma Community Center.
Woo, woo.
Hello, Dan.
Hello. It's been forever, Molly. Nice to see you.
You too. We're super excited to have you on our podcast today because you are the man that was here that can really tell the whole story about Scream. So tell us about yourself.
Okay. Well, it was interesting. I moved here back in 1990 and I got the job at the community center. I figured it'd be a neat way to meet a lot of people and make a lot of fun connections. And yeah, I was here for 4 years and had a fun time.
Early 90s, right?
You got it. They got me young.
Early 90s, they sure did. So when you were here, I know lots of things have happened. It was kind of like a heyday in the 90s. A lot of things happened here. I was here as well at that time, but mostly seeing bands like Green Day, Primus, all that kind of stuff. So these 90s stories are really coming out of the woodworks, which is fantastic. You know, we're celebrating our 70th birthday. And one of the biggest moments that we didn't realize, and you probably didn't realize, is that Scream was filmed here and put us on the map. Tell us a little bit about what were you doing at the time? You said you were director.
So my official title was Assistant Executive Director, even though we didn't have an executive director. So I had a big fancy title, but I was an assistant to nobody. So anyways, it was Ken Brown and I, the two of us were basically running the show. And I was booking the rooms and I was handling the staff and all of that kind of fun stuff. And anyways, one day I saw in the Santa Rosa Press-Democrat that a film was supposed to be shot in Santa Rosa. And at the last minute, the school district had pulled out. And I kept reading the story, and it's like, the building that they wanted to use is an old schoolhouse, and we're an old schoolhouse. Yes. And that one had columns and red brick, and this one has red columns and brick. And the article really made a big deal about this was like the final scenes of the movie, and the entire production was being put on hold until they could find a new location. And so
you read it in the paper.
I read it in the paper, yeah.
And savvy that you are, because I know you, Dan. You jumped right on that. So did you reach out to a production company?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did my research. I found out, because in the article it said who the production company was, and then I found out who the scout was for that company. And it shows how long ago it was, because we didn't Google things back then. So it wasn't as easy. But anyways, I reached out and they sent out a guy and we walked the property and he seemed interested. Mm-hmm. He said, okay, let me come back with my boss. Then he bought his boss. And then that guy brought his boss. And so here it was, we'd done 3 tours of the building, and I hadn't mentioned anything to the board of directors because it was just, in my opinion, me having a conversation with some people. And I don't know, I was just looking at opportunities.
And then came negotiation time, right?
Well, yeah. Well, here's the funny thing. So we had the multiple visits by the different people, and I still had not said anything to the board of directors. And then the last person I met with said that Wes Craven wanted to come see the property. That's when I thought, maybe I should go to the board and tell them what I'm doing. But then I kind of thought, you know what? Before I get them all nervous and excited and all weirded out, let me just first see if anything is going to come of it, because who knows, maybe Wes Craven's going to say that, no, this is not what I want. I don't want it. So anyways, so Wes Craven came, and it was so funny. I'm thinking, I hope none of the board members walk into the building when I'm walking down the hall with this guy that I think people know what he looks like, so it's like,
Maybe,
yeah. Right, yes.
I mean, now they do.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. But he wasn't wearing his Freddy Krueger sweater or anything like that.
Probably not for just filling out the location.
No.
Well, that would be pretty eccentric.
Oh, that's something.
Good story.
God. So anyway, so he walked through and he totally liked it and we hit it off and everything. And so then that's when I thought, okay, now I need to go take this to the board and tell them what's going on. Yeah. And so that's when it got interesting. So
next steps is contracting. I think you might have mentioned, was the board not very excited about it, or what were their thoughts on it?
No, it was interesting. I was raised in a family where we had a small business and we would always be hit up by various nonprofits for donations. And, my family is of the attitude of, we will definitely donate to a nonprofit. But then if you find out that nonprofit had an opportunity to make money on their own and turn down that opportunity, wow, here it is, we're donating money and then they had the ability to make it themselves and they didn't even take that opportunity. It's kind of hard to hit up people for donations when you don't even try to make money yourself, Yeah. So anyways, I thought it was a great opportunity. But almost half the board disagreed with me, and they felt it was kind of selling out. It was not good for the image of the community center.
I think all in all, it sounds like it kind of mirrored how Santa Rosa Board of Education felt. I don't think people really knew, and how would they know that Scream was of a different, it's the same genre, but he was always making slasher films.
Right.
So up till then, now it's like a psychological drama and basically changed the direction of movie making in that horror, so-called horror genre.
Yeah.
So understood, but so let's go to the good stuff. You went for it.
I went for it.
Negotiated a contract.
Yep. So the board, it was funny. I had to take it to the board and try to get the board to agree to even allow me to negotiate with the film company. And at that point, no dollar amounts had even been mentioned at that point. It was simply, can Daniel, this 20-something-year-old, go and start negotiating with whatever it was, Miramax or whoever the company was. And so anyways, I ended up basically being a bit of a lobbyist, and I went to the different board members, and I knew this board member was into music. And so I said, if I can get you to vote my way, we can earmark a certain percentage of the funds for the music program. You're into pottery, we can earmark a certain amount. And so anyways, I kind of was a lobbyist and was able to get the majority of the board to all vote my way. And so I had to make a whole lot of people happy just to be able to let me move forward with even having that conversation with them.
Now, this sounds like some real movie making business, even here in Sonoma. It's like no matter where you are, whatever field you're in, and I think the listeners don't know that you're like Mr. Real Estate. We can get into that, but Dan is quite finding his talents at the community center that then manifested in town. I mean, you're Mr. Sonoma.
Yeah, no, it was cool. And it was interesting because I had fun negotiating the deal. It felt good for me knowing that, I was going to have an opportunity to help fill the coffers of this nonprofit that had always been struggling. We had a mortgage. We were always making the minimum payments. I studied business finance and economics. And growing up, my parents had a lawnmower shop. So at age 8 or 9, I was learning how to sell lawnmowers. And if somebody didn't want to necessarily buy that next model up, I'd say, okay, how about if we do this? I'll sell you this model up and we'll throw in a free bag of fertilizer and we'll deliver the lawnmower tonight. Yes. So I learned how to negotiate. And so it was kind of fun to get back into that. And so then I got to do it with the film company.
Yeah, we are a nonprofit still. And there's as much importance as running arts programming and being a community center and somewhere for everywhere to come and feel welcome as having someone that's on the business side, knowing that to protect this building and keep it going. So thank you for that. So you've made the deal. I think it was 1996, right?
Yeah, I think it was 96. Yeah. So they offered a certain amount. And the cool thing was, since they were just dealing with this 20-something-year-old that just worked for a nonprofit, I think they thought that they were just like, whatever they offered, we were just going to say, yeah, we'll take it. And so, but I was super, super nice. And the dollar amount that they offered, I said, rather than that being the use of the building for that whole period of time, I see that more as the daily rate. So anyways, I was able to get them up in price. So ultimately, in the end, I got 7 times what they originally offered. 7 times.
You're going to hear a hand high five. Better one right now. So I love to hear that.
So it was super neat because, here it is. I was able to get enough money from the film company to be able to pay off the mortgage. I was able to give the film company the ability to finish this movie that was probably costing them a whole lot of money every day that it wasn't in production.
Yeah.
I also was able to get all of the tenants in the building into other buildings for those days of filming.
I was going to ask you next steps, like getting down to, because there's always so much going on, programming, whatever it is. I think it's even fuller now than it probably was back then. But you also, people weren't misplaced.
Yep.
You just put them out and then brought them back. How long was filming anyway?
They were here for about a week. It was
that's it.
Yeah, it was just a week. Yeah. So not one single class got canceled. Not one single tenant went without having their normal scheduled class at their normal time. So I reached out to the women's club, the Vets building. Back in the day, my mom and dad used to own Little Switzerland at the time.
Yes, look that up. That place is amazing.
So when I wasn't working at the community center, I was bartending at Little Switzerland. And so anyways, so I got my mom and dad to let, I think it was one of the exercise classes, go do their exercise class on the dance floor at Little Switzerland. So
by chance, was it Jazzercise at that time?
I think it was Phyllis,
Phyllis?
Phyllis,
Oh, Phyllis Gurney.
Yep.
Love her.
So it was neat because the whole community, I just started making phone calls and it's like, I'm going to figure this out somehow. Okay, I've got them on the hook now for the money. I've got the days. Now I just have to figure out how do I get X number of tenants into how many other locations. But it's like, it'll all work itself out. I'll figure it out.
It does work itself out. So they're here for a week. Were you here on the premises when they were doing the shooting?
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So seeing a lot of the action hook up, I mean, that must have been pretty exciting.
It was super cool. It was fun. But here's the funny thing, you look at them doing a film, there's just so much downtime between shoots. It's like they do the shot and then they have to redo it. Then they redo it. Then they redo it. And it's like, oh my God, 3 hours to do a 5-minute scene.
Yes.
Then they go with the bullhorn. Everybody has to be quiet. So everybody stands still and they do the shot over and over and over. But the fun thing though is, I got to meet all of the cast, and it was cool because all of the cast and all the production people knew that they were kind of screwed until this location came along. So here I am. I get to be like, whoa, you're the guy. And so
wait, is there any end of filming wrap-ups? Did you hang out with Ned Campbell, or did you take him out and show him the town, Dan?
Even better. It was nice. They invited me to the wrap party. So it was fun. The wrap party was in Santa Rosa. And I thought the funniest thing was the wrap party was in Santa Rosa. They had a band and it was super wild and super fun. I was there from start to finish. I saw the whole party. I was part of the whole party. And then like a few days later in the National Enquirer, there was a story about the wrap party and how a certain actress who we'll say is maybe a friend of someone, or she's friends with with people.
Hint.
Yeah, hint, hint, that she had done something bad at the wrap party. And it's like, dude, I was there at the wrap party. I was drinking beer with her. I know that didn't even happen.
It didn't happen.
So I then knew that the National Enquirer could no longer be trusted as my news source.
The paper.
That's right.
You're out.
That's
paper.
it.
You're out, paper. Filming here during location, you and I both have like mutual friends, Emmy and Abe, that were extras in the movie. Some of them don't even remember that time. They're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. But how was that? A lot of the community was pulled in for extras, right?
Oh, yeah. So I'm trying to remember. I remember I just like called all of my friends and I'm like, yeah, we just like need random people that look like they could be in high school.
I kind of remember that because I think I got that call, but maybe thought I was too cool for school, or I probably was working. I was always working, which is really funny.
No, so yeah, I was here the whole time, and it was my thing since I only won the vote by one vote to get the board to agree. So I had nearly...
Thank you, that one vote.
Yeah, thank you, yes. And that money was earmarked to her pet project. But anyways... Yeah, so all eyes were on me. I had basically half the board just watching to make sure that everything went exactly as smooth as I said it was going to. So yeah, I was here at like 5 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, the whole time, just to make sure that everything was going exactly as it was supposed to.
What was it like seeing upstairs? So most of the scenes are upstairs at the community center. There's 2 floors here, and it was transformed. Were there lockers originally still there from school before they came in?
No, here's the funny thing. So we didn't have lockers upstairs, but they needed to have lockers to make it look like a high school. So the film company bought the lockers and had them installed. They were just leaning up against the wall. And so me, the wheeler dealer... I asked them if they wanted to take the lockers with them, and they said they really didn't have a need for them. So while they were doing their filming, I reached out to a certain gym that I thought would maybe need the lockers or be willing to buy them. So I ended up selling the lockers to a gym here in Sonoma County. So those lockers were brought here for the filming. I said, if you want to leave them, you can leave them. And as soon as they left them, I sold them to a gym in Sonoma County.
We try to look in there sometimes, like, is that the same desk? Is that the same bench? And I think they're similar, but I think a lot of that stuff was cleared out pretty much.
Yeah.
You ended up with one plaque memento filming, right?
Yep.
So if you come to the Sonoma Community Center and you walk on up the front stairs, you look to the right, there is a plaque, a historic plaque for the Sonoma Community Center that Kathleen Hill wheeled and dealed and got herself. So we are a historical landmark. Well, what did you get, Dan?
Well,
and if you don't know, the Sonoma Community Center is Woodsboro High, but I think if you're listening, you're already well aware of that.
Yeah, so they called it Woodsboro High, so they covered up the big sign at the top of the building. They covered the community center sign with Woodsboro High, and then to the right where the plaque is that we have now, they put a fake plaque that said Woodsboro High 1926 or whatever. And so anyway, so the film company gave it to me as a gift, and so I kept it, and it's on loan and can be seen.
Yes, so thank you so much, Dan. So, this really wraps up. This is a part of a long series for our 70th year as a community center. And we're having a show exhibit of many touchstone moments that have happened here at the community center. So we will have a photo of that plaque up here at the show. So please come see it. I think it's best that it's not the original plaque that's here, although I get to touch it. It's very exciting, right? I get to spend some time with it for the weekend. Come and see this. I know for years after this, and I know you didn't know the impact that it had, but every year, more and more scream fanatics show up. One time I was teach ballet here. It's a Saturday morning. There's a bunch of little girls, little tutus showing up. And here comes 2 busloads, right? 2 busloads of scream fanatics. Some of them wearing the mask, some of them not. And they're running all over the building. They're in the downstairs bathroom recreating the scene. They're like coming up to the dance studio. It's the same hallway, recreating the scene. And it was actually really fun.
I love it.
And every year about Halloween, people come on up and visit.
How funny.
So, I mean, thank you for making kind of a pretty big impact and putting us on the map here.
It was funny because the timing of it also, it was right after Drew Barrymore, because she was in the film also.
That's right.
Drew Barrymore had been on David Letterman.
Oh,
and
she did the dancing on the table?
Yeah, she turned her back to the audience and she flashed him. She lifted her shirt and flashed him. And so, he made the big crazy eyes, but we, of course, knew what she just did. So anyways, that was one of the arguments when I was debating the board. What if Drew Barrymore pulls a stunt like she did on David Letterman? And I'm like, what? She's going to go flash the ducks at the duck pond? Come on now.
It's so funny that those type of things, people were a lot more, you're just a little more reserved. These days, people seek those out and do those just to get attention and media attention. So it's interesting.
Times have changed.
But not a lot. Not a lot. If you come here at the community center, it's still kind of the same. We're always trying to get these programs up and running, be a space for people to come and just belong. And we have some incredible events coming up. Trash and Fashion and Chili Bowl, but more importantly, the 70th exhibit is something pretty near and dear to a lot of locals, and we hope to share it with not just locals, but everyone and beyond.
Yeah, no, sounds like fun, definitely.
Dan, anything else you want to tell us about this sweet deal?
I'm trying to think what else. It was kind of funny, though, after I left here, today walking in, it was so weird just walking into this building, smelling the smell of an older building, takes you back to old memories. It's like I used to live a block away. I'd walk to work and I'd come in here and that's where my desk used to be. And then now here it is. I come here every Thursday for the real estate meeting.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, in room 110. And see, I still remember the room numbers. I can still remember who the tenants were and all that stuff. But anyways, it's weird for me to sit in that room and be like, whoa, I was the guy that had to set up the tables and chairs when the table and chair guy didn't show up. And I'm now someone who's sitting at the table. It's like, wow, this is interesting.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of nostalgia. That's the magic when you walk into this place because even just the architecture, and you sell houses, the way it was designed is set up that when you come here and you're young or you're really small, the ceilings are so high, you just don't get that feeling when you walk into places anymore.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the magic of bringing people back here. You're like, oh.
Yeah, no, it's such an asset to the community. How many communities have something like this where everybody can come together and have a space? I thought it was so neat when I started working here. It's like, okay, someone's into knitting. Yeah. They can do a knitting class. Somebody else is into this. Even in my business, I tell people there's a real sense of community. You will not feel like a stranger for very long. All you do is just go to the community center, sign up for a couple classes, go to a couple events. There you'll meet people. So yeah, it's a super important asset to the community. And I remember, it doesn't sustain itself all by itself. It needs supporters. People need to show up and they need to attend events. And it's not just saying, I love the place, but show it by showing up and supporting it.
It's always the message, folks.
And she wasn't even holding up cue cards. I was not reading a thing.
I am now holding up a cue card that says, subscribe, please. That also contributes. So to hear more stories like this, Dan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your stories.
My pleasure. Thank you for including me, and I'm super happy that I was able to be a part of this.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a house in Sonoma,
call Daniel Casabonne, 939-2222. And if you can't remember that number, I'm on the face of every shopping cart Safeway.
Thank you, Dan.
Hey, Molly, so what's going on right now? I know we have an event on February 25th, huh?
It's a big one. We're back in person. The Chili Bowl Express is a ceramics and Sonoma Community Center fundraiser. And we're finally back in February.
Nice. Last year was May or something?
Yes, it was to go, and then it was canceled during COVID. This is a really fun, low-key daytime community connection. February 25th. Tickets are available now. There's 3 seatings, 11 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5 p.m. dinner, which also gets you, I think, like a cocktail as well as a cup. There's availability for that. So that's going to be super fun.
So are we going to have any type of music or anything?
We'll have music, and a lot of the chili is always donated from a very great chefs in town, as you know. So we are excited for everybody to come out and join us. What else will we do that day?
I don't know. I can't remember where we're doing that day.
Yeah.
I know we're having chili. People are coming in, eating chili. And, I'm new at this thing. This is my first year, I think, doing it, to be honest.
Chili's fun. The Chili Bowl is just a really low-key celebration. If you're from out of town, you're not doing anything that day, book a ticket. Come on by. It's for everyone,
right? It's
for everyone. The whole building is open.
And the tickets are super cheap, too. So that's what I heard.
I think, throw down a couple of 20s and come and have a good time at the Chili Bowl.
Plus, you get a nice ceramic bowl, too, right?
You get a ceramic bowl, and you get a bowl of chili, a couple of wipes to make sure that you don't have to walk around with the dirty bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're interested, this is, as I said, a really big fundraiser for the ceramics program as well as Sonoma Community Center. If you are interested in sponsorships and hearing your business support the Chili Bowl on our podcast as well as other media outlets, please reach out to us. Otherwise, come and join our community at the Chili Bowl.
Come enjoy and leave your donations too. We take donations all the time. Sonoma Community Center, how are you guys doing? We got Gerardo Diaz,
Molly Spencer,
and then our best friend today from Ceramic Department. We got
Meg Billingham.
Megan, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on today.
Hello, Megan.
Good. Nice Thursday morning.
Hey, Molly, what's up? You were kind of late today, huh? What's up?
Well, that might be a little typical, but a long time ago, I have a friend that came in. I'm like, hey, our 10 minutes late is 20 minutes early in our book. Not professional, but I'm always trying to squeeze things in. So
yeah, you're on Mexican time, Mexican time, so you're always late.
Oh, good. I'll take it. I'll take it. I know. I think I'll do well in a more relaxed country, but that can wait because there's so many busy things happening around here.
Yep.
And I'm super excited to have Meg Billingham to do a more in-depth interview. You were on the end of the show. I think it was like episode 5 when we had the cast party, puppet party.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was great.
The experimental show. And so now the Sonoma Ceramics Department has been, we're kind of going backwards. We're actually having a 70th birthday gallery show. And part of this show is really exploring a lot of stories from the past. And last time we had Tom Collins on, who was the founder. And then it's had many different inceptions and it's grown huge. And you inherited this big program. But before we launch into what Sonoma Ceramics is about and what you inherited and what we're doing and what you're planning, let's hear your story. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like?
Sure. I grew up not too far from here, just a couple hours east in the foothills in Grass Valley, a little small town tucked away in the mountains. And I'm the youngest of 3, so I'm the baby of the family.
So you have brothers, sisters?
Got an older brother, an older sister. Yeah, my sister's the oldest. And we're now all, for the first time in like a decade, living back in California.
Wow.
So that is exciting. We've really been all over the place.
All the stoners right now are going, Grass Valley, man.
Yeah.
I actually didn't hear of Grass Valley until I drove up by there.
That kind of surprises me.
And me too.
It's such a hub for specifically the music world. I mean, so many names love to go hang out there in Grass Valley. Willie Nelson loves it. Wow. I mean, I was just back there last weekend. Like,
Willie Nelson
was playing. I mean, musicians like to come through that space. So
I know a little bit because I do fly fishing through that area, and I know there's a river there, but I've never been there.
What rivers? What's the main river kind of?
I think that's the Sacramento River. It could be the Yuba River.
It's just tucked away in this magic little pocket where we've got both forks of the Yuba. We've got South Fork of the American River, Middle Fork of the American River. We're super close to the Sacramento River.
Girl, you know what I need? I need a little bit more dry creek. Let me get down there to Sonoma County where there's no water.
It's not dry anymore with this rain.
Yeah, that's true. Let's hope it keeps up. So did you go to school up there? So what was your childhood like? Like growing up, what were your interests? I imagine you running idyllically around the rivers,
through the grass.
Like a 70s childhood in the 90s,
not
2000.
too far off. I grew up really outside. I actually found recently, when you're like in like third grade, I was back home and I was going through old K through 5 files that I had of art and stuff. And when you're like star student, asks you what you want to be when you grew up. And what I wanted to be when I grew up in third grade was that I wanted to do yoga and make art. And I was like, hey man, I'm doing pretty good. There you
go. We fulfill those
pretty
dreams,
accomplished.
right?
Check those things off the list.
I know.
That feels pretty good. But yeah, I was outside all the time. I feel super lucky to have grown up in an area where, both sides of my family are pretty close. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a big family, but every holiday was together. Every holiday was outside. Both sets of grandparents were around, not too far away. We were playing in the rivers. I grew up in an area around a lake. So I grew up in an area called Lake of the Pines. And so, every 4th of July, I was out on the pontoon boat, roping boats together, looking at the fireworks.
Wow.
I'm having like visions and,
Me too.
And jealousy visions.
Yeah. A lot of fishing.
I just see her rowing,
Yep. A lot of fishing.
I love swimming in lakes. That's my favorite.
You're a swimmer, huh, Molly?
I am a swimmer, not as good as you. That opens up our next question because I'm an amateur swimmer, but I do love swimming.
I don't know. You're swimming more than I am these days.
I don't know.
I think we need to have a swimming competition.
It's been really cold. I don't even know what those numbers, like the clock means. Meg, maybe you can fill that in. I go my own back floaty way.
Yeah, sure. Part of growing up in that town was definitely joining the swim team. So especially being the youngest of 3, I was just sort of like chucked into the pool as soon as I could be because my older brother and sister were already swimming. And I started swimming really young. So I started doing summer league really, really young, like 3, 4.
It reminds me. Now that she says that, it reminds me when I was swimming. The first time I swam here, it was at the Sonoma Creek here in town.
Yeah.
And I remember all my brothers were all swimming and his friends. And I'm just looking at them because I was afraid. It was so deep. Yeah. So my brother's like, you want to learn how to swim, buddy? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, here we go.
Yeah.
Push me in.
One way to learn.
That
yes.
way.
I started swimming like a little dog, I'm like.
Yeah.
Just like
the survival swim.
Yeah, and then after that, I'm like, if I can do this, I can do it all the time. So I just swim like a dog until I was 18.
Well, there's a spot in town. Was it the Larson Park spot?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know about this.
Larson Park used to be cool.
It's really cool when the water's actually high enough in the spring and it's flowing, it's kind of clean, and it has a rope swing. I mean, it's definitely not deep like a lake or other spots,
Let
but
me tell you,
the community still comes out there. Yeah. I've been out there.
You got to take me out there. I haven't been.
Yeah. Let's hope more rain.
Right now, the water is like to your maybe ankles or something.
And there's a dam that's there, so it's, you got to hit it.
Well, there used to be another spot over San Francis, all the way tucked in there, Agua Caliente. And there used to be like a little hill where we used to like dive into it. It was so deep. And you can see like steelhead and stuff. There was a lot of fish.
Yeah. I heard there was steelhead not that long ago, but there was a beaver that actually built a dam up the way. We haven't seen... Wow. Saw like one miracle steelfish. Steelhead. I lived right on there like
we got mosquito
6
fish
years ago. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So Grass Valley and swimming and you're making art. Mm-hmm. What's kind of your jam when you're young, when you're a teenager?
Transition.
She's still young.
I know.
She's a young bug.
I got told the other day, I got asked by somebody, I was checking in at a volunteer place, and they were like, you're not an adult, are you? And I was like, unfortunately, I am.
Show me your ID.
Getting into swimming, it was always sort of swimming and art. My mom was our art docent growing up in our K through 5, and so she was coming in once a month and teaching art lessons to my class. So I always sort of grew up around that. And then for a long time, swimming was I was a competitive swimmer year round all the way through high school. That really consumed a lot of my life. And was really my community and where I was getting a lot of my support and my work ethic from. But then in tandem, I was starting to develop I always had this artistic outlet. I sort of always knew from a very young age that was what was going to be what I pursued.
Wow.
Depending on what that looked like, I didn't know. But I always knew I wanted to go to art school. I had the privilege of just sort of watching my brother and sister go through what that college application process looked like. And so I was like touring colleges when I was in middle school because of my older siblings. So by the time it came around to me, I was like, I know this route and I know what I want to do and I know what I don't want to do.
So where did you land?
So I landed at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where I ended up. I knew I didn't really want to be in California. I wanted to go out of state, experience something. I was super lucky to have parents that supported that and also supported the fact that I was like, hey, I'm going to art school. And, and that's big. Both of my parents are in the medical field. A lot of my family is. And so that divestment from that world, and it wasn't a thing. It was just supported, which was huge.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was going to say there's the parents that expect you to kind of follow that path. And then sometimes there's the parents. It sounds like you said your mom was an art docent and you come from this medical world, but maybe sometimes there's these unfulfilled dreams of direction that they didn't take that they're willing to support their children to take.
Yeah.
And the Latino community would be like, do you have a backup plan?
Yeah. Be like,
Like, that's just for hobby, right?
So
you have a real
how are you going to
job.
make money?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Renielle had mentioned that, our artist in residence, and I think it's got a lot to do, with the immigration here and kind of making it and making sure, how are you going to support yourself,
Huge. I mean, it was a huge privilege to even have that support from them. And, both of my dad's parents were physicians, very intellectual, cerebral people. My dad is an ER doctor. My mom's a pediatric physical therapist. My sister's a pediatrician. I mean, it's like everybody. But what it created was this like magical, weird, I feel like I'm not doctor by association, but I feel like I grew up in a family. All these like our dinner table conversations were like, I have all this weird tangential language now about the body because of the family that I grew up in. And so when I started making work, I was making a lot of work about the body. All my high school portfolios were about the body. And then I was like, I discovered this thing in high school at the end of my senior year because we had a senior project. I don't think they do those anymore. You had to like shadow.
I think they still do it.
They do
yeah,
them?
they still do the senior project. They have like my daughter does it in 8th grade. She had to do like a photographer. Like she had to go and meet a photographer and teach her how to.
Yeah.
Your era was. It was definitely happening. It wasn't when I was around in high school, but I love that you have to focus on.
I had to do a full shadow situation, like mock interviews, the whole shebang. And so I discovered the space in my town called the Neighborhood Center of the Arts, and it was an art center for adults with disabilities. And that was like, oh my God, this magic culmination where I could utilize this tangential knowledge that I have from my family about the body and interacting with people and engaging with people and this passion for art that I have. And that was like this huge moment of connection for me between my family's background and what I could do. And I sort of credit that also with falling in love with ceramics because it's such a bodily.
Is Chicago where you kind of this is the medium that I'm really drawn to.
Yeah. So I got to Chicago and I was actually stuck. I was like, I'm going to do photography and drawing. And as most people do, they like flip around. Everything changes when you get to college. And
I hear you.
Yeah.
World.
And my school didn't have majors or minors, so you could like self-focus. And so I ended up actually coming into ceramics after some time off. I took a little bit of time off of college and then came back and sort of fell into ceramics. And it was pretty coincidental that I ended up falling into ceramics out in the Midwest because it's a major hub for especially functional pottery out in the Midwest and the greater Midwest and Chicago as well. So.
Maybe explain to maybe not necessarily people that know about ceramics, kind of the world of potters, functional ceramics versus sculpture, and just a brief touchdown on that, because you are the hub up in Chicago and upstate New York of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, ceramics has a massive history. It's found in every population that we have, especially starting in indigenous populations with functional pottery and really championed by women in those communities. And then we start to see over the course of history, we start to see the development of expansion beyond functional. Some of our first objects for like adornment or ritual objects, we see those being made out of clay and being honored in communities and being used for ritual purposes. So that's where we start to develop this sort of cultural, spiritual, sculptural relationship with clay that extends beyond just the functional vessel.
The Incas and the Mayas, they all have old clays and stuff.
Yeah, the fertility vessel.
How old is the wheel?
I was talking to somebody about that yesterday. I actually need to look into it a little bit more. I don't know when the sort of our first established understanding of when the wheel started was, but manual wheels have been around for a really, really long time. Anything that a wheel that doesn't have a motor. And those are still used, especially in specific populations and cultures today, in many different ways.
It makes me wonder, like the Mayans used to make all this good pottery, and I'm like, how do they make that pottery? You know? And have the wheel, There's a wheel you needed to go around and that,
Yeah, and we do know that like our first understanding of a wheel was basically what we now know to be, like we call it a banding wheel, which is just something that could spin on something else where you're still hand building, you're still using coils and you're still building, but you have this rotational surface that you can build quicker with. Yeah. So that was sort of our transition into wheel throwing with sort of momentum and centrifugal force. And getting into what we know now.
We could do a whole show.
I could go on and on and on.
I mean, it relates back to how how wheels and that shape were surrounded. It amazes me
sometimes too when they find like all these foundings with bases and stuff. They're like hundreds and hundreds of years old that were in the ground,
the true markers of civilization there. Yeah.
So there's different types of clay I found out working here. I know porcelain is out from China. What's kind of the older clays? Does it just depend on the world? Or they're all kind of
really dependent geologically on where you are in the world. So when you talk about a porcelain, you're talking about something that has really high kaolin. So that's a primary clay. It's a kaolinitic clay. So it's geologically found very close to where the source of that clay was developed, right? And we know that clay is inorganic matter. It's decomposed rock and other mineral content, right? Yeah. Just like how we know glass is decomposed quartz. It's silica, right? And clay has silica in it. It's a pretty high content of silica. So it's decomposed rock. So that's why it doesn't melt or burn. Yeah. It doesn't burn out in the kiln. It doesn't burn like organic matter does, like dirt does. So that's our main difference between clay and dirt. Dirt is organic material, leaves and things like that. And clay is inorganic material, decomposed.
Interesting.
Rock.
Can you get sick by eating clay? Because when I was little, I remember in Mexico, there was a person who was pregnant and she was craving clay, and she used to pay me so I can go and get clay for her.
So really, there's really
our sound editor is shaking his head. We really diverted. But
I have a friend who swears by. There's a type of clay called bentonite, and it's known to have specific properties. And
it's up in the mountains here.
He swears by eating a ball of bentonite to cure his hangovers.
I'm telling
people have been eating clay and putting it on their faces. I mean,
there is bentonite clay up there. I've used it for. I had a friend that lives up there and for the skin and stuff.
Bentonite has very interesting properties.
I wish I would have known. I used to bring like a bunch of clay that I used to find. I used to like scrape her, and then there was like yellow clay, and I used to bring it to her. I wish she would pay me by pound. Otherwise, it was just like, here, 10 pesos. I'm like,
So yellow clay, as opposed to something like porcelain, it's going to be really white. That you got that yellow clay is indicative of yellow iron oxide. So it's got a different type of oxide and metal in mineral composition, and usually that clay is going to be found much farther down in sort of a geologic process. It's going to have traveled and sort of gathered these other particulate matters with it and sort of continually broken down, and we call those like secondary and tertiary clays. And so those are maybe not going to be as refractory, so they're going to melt a little bit at a lower temperature. And it's gathering all of this history and it's showing it, right? And we know with the geologic process and breaking down of oxides, right? Yellow oxide is just like a younger version of red iron oxide, which is a younger version of black iron oxide. In its history of timeline, it's breaking down its half-life. It's turning into these next things.
I'm learning so much right now.
I know.
There's so much chem and I think that is something that I adore about clay, because it's so, in the way that humans are, we're this amalgamation of everything that we've carried, of our histories, of our travels, of what we could be, what we have been. Clay is doing the exact same thing, and it's like this magic material where it's both immediately malleable and tangible. You can change it immediately. It's not like wood where you got to take it to the planer and you got to you got to transform it. You got to make it what you want to do. You can push it and maneuver it, and it's immediately receptive and malleable in the moment. Yeah. And also hundreds of thousands of years old and carrying all of this history and migration And like, that is so powerful. I mean, to hold that in your hands and learn from it, it's like really grounding yourself on Earth and in relationship to your ancestors and your own geologic history and geographic history. And
now I want to sign up for a ceramic
class.
Doesn't it? She's selling that. She's selling it for a class. Like, I'm now imagining myself going like this.
Yeah, well, it's such a calming thing too. So I understand that whole transforming. It speaks to anyone who is super young, 2 years old, 1 year old, playing with clay, on up to the older community that comes in too. So I love that. And we'll have you back for more history lessons on clay. But let's get back to you. And how did you find the community center, and how did you end up in this region in Sonoma?
Totally. So during college, I started doing a lot of wood firing. So that's a specific type of firing in a specific type of kiln where you're using wood as your fuel versus electricity or gas. Wood is a very intensive process. You're with the kiln the whole time. You're really working as a team. It's a really collaborative, beautiful experience. And I was doing a lot of that in the Midwest. And so I stayed in the Midwest after college to do that for a while, working with Gary Karstens and Tab Link in a couple places. And I know Tab. Shout out to Tab, who's one of our residents. Her on
Instagram.
It was just their birthday the other day. So shout out to Tab. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
We miss you.
An artist in residence here about a year ago, and really the specialists that came in and set up. What's that kiln back there?
Our Julia soda kiln.
Oh wow. Yeah. So anyway, we will have her on in the future, but
they'll be back for sure. So I was working out there in the Midwest firing kilns because, you can do basically whatever you want in Iowa because it's a very unregulated state. Yes. And then I really just missed mountains, and I wanted to come back, really missed mountains. I wanted to be back in California with my family. And so moved back, and that was sort of in the middle of COVID, and was starting to work at a small community studio with a now friend and mentor, Glenn Husted, out in Penn Valley, which is very close to where I live, out in Grass Valley. And as I was doing that, I was looking at other opportunities and seeing where maybe I wanted to land. And I just cold called the community center. I found you guys online. I cold called Kayla. I think I actually might have sent an Instagram DM. I mean, it was real. And I was just like, hey, I'm recently moved back. This is who I am. I'd love to come out. I see you have studio monitors. What's going on? Do you have openings?
Meg, I feel like I'm having a flashback right now.
Is that what you did?
I did the community center, especially during COVID. I did the DMs for Sonoma Community Center, and Kayla would jump in on Sonoma Ceramics, but I was very aware of the conversations that came over there. I feel like I'm remembering you DMing Kayla, hey, did you reach out? Blah, 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 blah. So,
oh my God.
Interesting.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah. So that's what I did. And she was something that I've always admired about Kayla. She just jumped on every opportunity that's there. And so she was yeah, I would love to meet you, come out. So I drove out. I spent an afternoon out here walking around. I did a tour. And then they hired me kind of on the spot I met Lexi for summer camps.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that was my first job out here.
Was this 2021?
Yeah, early 2021.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a weird timeline here because we kind of migrated. And I think coming back first in person was 2021 with the camp.
Yep,
so
that was
Kayla
the first
Stein,
shebang.
our ceramics director, and then Lexi Bakar, our youth director, and then you coming on board.
Yeah, and then it was it snowballed from there. So I came out, I was crashing in one of our studio monitors, amazing little Airstreams on their property. And I mean, I think that was the immediate understanding here, was that people were just so just the generosity I experienced from the community that was here was I got put up. They let me stay in their Airstream.
Especially in the Sonoma Ceramics department. You folks really take care of each other over there.
Taken care of. It's a tight community. And, I found that in ceramics in general across, if you're in ceramics, you're sort of, it's what's that called? It's what's that game? 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever. It's you're always you're one person away from knowing somewhere. So
6 degrees of
6 degrees of separation.
And then it evolved
to that game of Kevin Bacon. It was you could get to a Kevin Bacon movie through one other movie, but
it is very true through life. So
yeah, it's I could go anywhere and be sort of held by the ceramic community, and I found that increasingly so here. And so I was just how do I stay? I wasn't living out here yet, but I started house sitting for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I would come out here for 2 weeks at a time, and I would house sit, and I would work as a studio assistant for Kayla in her studio, learn a lot, and then started to get more involved here. Started as a private instructor, and then Miss Lexi got preggers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh,
baby time.
It was baby time for Lexi. And then the plan was for me to step in as studio coordinator while Lexi was away on maternity leave.
Yes.
And then as it would happen, Kayla ended up making her exit. And I, through a lot of conversations, ended up stepping in as interim director during that time.
I think actually we're coming up on your 1 year anniversary, right?
Yeah, we just hit it.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
As the director. So,
Yep.
Meg, I mean, you took on a huge role. The ceramics department is really a very thriving program here, and just restructuring to make it even more thriving as we're coming out of COVID, managing that, you know, as far as like, was it intimidating?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the biggest part was the understanding and the responsibility of holding something that there's such a strong history here. Tom Collins.
Yeah.
And then we got Forrest Leash Middleton, who is now over in Petaluma, who's incredible.
Yeah.
And Kayla coming in.
It's like the founder. Basically, Tom was the founder. We had him on the last one, dug it up. Forrest really started the Artist in Residence program. And then Kayla, did Chili Bowl come on with Kayla, or was it a little bit before that? And then
it was
she
before
took it.
that. Chili Bowls are not an uncommon type of fundraiser for a ceramics department. And so that was happening. At one point, there was sort of like a salad plate situation going on.
I just looked that up. Yeah. Get ready, Gerardo. I'm looking up all this history, old Collins, and they did
salad plate.
an open house with a salad plate fundraiser.
I love
That's
amazing. I love
We
it.
might have to bring it back.
Maybe a spring, summer situation.
I want to do a Caesar salad.
Ooh.
You all know that
I would
Caesar
be down
salad is
for
a
that.
Mexican who invented Caesar salad, right?
No.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's in Tijuana. In Tijuana, there's a place called Cesar Salad.
Okay.
And it was invented by a guy named Cesar in Tijuana.
And I'm thinking it's Italian.
No. Cesar salad was invented by a Mexican in Tijuana.
I think I was thinking that
heard it
because of the
here first.
sardines, you know?
Yeah, they do sardines and then lime juice, mustard, and eggs.
You know what's up.
They mix it in a big wooden bowl too. It's
Oh,
pretty
you know,
cool.
I have seen. I think
like
I've
it
seen
even better
those
when they
videos.
mix it up at your table.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
real service right there.
So no, it's not Italian, it's Mexican.
I think the best Caesar salad around town. It used to be at Cafe Chidi in Kenwood. Now it's up in Santa Rosa, and put a sardine on there. But anyway, we're kind of getting out of time, and I'd love to find out a little bit more. What's happening now in Sonoma Ceramics, and what's your vision? You just restructured the open studio.
We just restructured open studio. So previous, we had a hand building room and a wheel throwing room, and then we had classes and workshops, and then sort of interspersed with that, we had open studio. And so we just restructured for this year. We've expanded our open studio program to be over 60 hours a week, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Saturday.
Evening time, folks.
Evening time. You can come and you can get your clay on. And that happens upstairs in our now members studio. We've got a great classroom downstairs where we're hosting workshops. We got long format foundational classes.
Wow.
We've got advanced classes. We've got surface level classes. Wonderful residents teaching amazing classes. Our new resident, Fred DeWitt, it's amazing coming to us from Berkeley. He's going to be teaching some amazing stuff. And our next big thing is Chili Bowl. That's coming up on February 25th. Bowl mania right now, making
How many bowls have you guys done?
Yeah.
We got to do a recount, but I want to say we're at over 500.
Wow.
Our goals are 800.
So if you don't know, folks, this is a very beloved. We're back in February. This is where the community comes out. We have chili donated by local chefs, and you get to pick at your seating. There's 3 seatings.
Yep.
And this year it's on February 25th. But the bowls that are out there from the community, you get to pick out the best bowl. Of course, there's always like my husband goes for the biggest bowl.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going for like
parameters.
the artist, and I see a Bigfoot bowl down the hall that
that's
I've
a
got my
beautiful
eye
one.
on too. I love that. And there's music and there's libations, and it's a true community affordable event, and it funds the ceramics program and the artists in residence, right?
And the artists in residence
really
program, and just keeps our amazing equipment going and our programming to be able to be expanded. Another great amazing thing about clay is its connection to food. So it's just a chance to break bread with community. So if you're thinking about joining the ceramics department, or you want to be a part of the community center, you don't really know where to start, it's a great way to just meet. I mean, over 600 people come to this event. And so it's a great way to just get your foot in the door, eat some amazing food, get to take home some beautiful pottery, and hopefully some new friends. Yeah, go on a tour, see what it's all about over here.
It's good for all ages. I think many people come through here. A lot of people usually find out about the community center through events, and Chili Bowl is a very accessible and fun event.
Yeah.
And for those that are not ready yet, they can have a to-go option.
You can have a to-go option, absolutely, yeah. So we know that we've still got folks that want to protect their health and maybe aren't quite ready to break bread elbow to elbow yet. And so not only are we having our in-person seatings this year, we've got tickets for to-go. So you can get your bowl and your chili to go and take it home and party on in the comfort of your living room.
Or you can bring your party. We got tables too.
Oh, yeah, we got tables. Yeah. You want to sit private tables for all of our seatings at lunch and dinner.
Awesome.
Yeah. And dinner also includes a special cocktail and a cup. So that's extra special situation.
I have to say, though, I was here for the winter art show on December.
Yeah.
And I bought 2 big bowls from Ben. I believe it's one of your...
one of our instructors, Ben Paterni.
Beautiful
Big Ben.
bowls.
His specialty is big pots.
Big bowls. Yeah, because they were just amazing. My mother-in-law is like, where do you get these bowls?
Yeah.
Like pozole time, menudo. They're perfect for those, man. And beautiful. They're so beautiful.
Yeah.
I know.
So now
really
I'm throwing away
talented.
all my bowls and I'm just getting the ones from ceramics now.
Welcome to me. I have like 5 plates and then I have probably about 20 mismatched bowls.
There you go. That's the best. It's the best.
But I like it that way. Back to you.
Yeah.
Kind of what would you like to do outside of ceramics and medium if you could take... We have the time. We're always busy around here. But what would you like to take outside of this? I know you've done a couple of clubs here. What else would you like to see? What other fields would you like to explore in the arts here?
Oh, you mean
see
in
classes?
at the community center specifically?
Yeah, or outside practices as well.
You know, I did a lot of performance in college as well. I have a mini self minor in performance and would love to see a lot of movement centered classes. And I'm all about an interdisciplinary life and an interdisciplinary art practice. I've got tattoos on my feet that say genre fluid. Don't ever want to get stuck in just one path, one mode. And I always want people to feel like they can sort of flow between and understand that there's integrations with everything that we're doing. It's always influencing each other. And so I'd love to see, and it's in the works, some more collaborative programming happening. What does it mean to do clay and movement together in a class? What does it mean to do writing and textiles in a class together? And how are we influencing and engaging with those different mediums as means of communication and community building?
That's
beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think we've started a little bit, especially the partnership between culinary and ceramics.
Yeah.
And
been huge.
Bringing in a little of the dancers for the last ceramic show, which I'm really excited to see where that goes. So, yeah.
Well, you can also find us when we do farmers market. We are going to have the wheel once in a while there.
Oh, yeah. The wheel will be out.
Yeah.
When does that start again?
Sonoma Tuesday Farmers Market. That's the big party one, which is great. We're usually down there. It starts at the beginning of May. So it's usually May until the end of September or October. And I got to tell you, it's probably the most popular thing there. It's one thing that Gerardo and I cannot do. So we got Gerardo's daughter, who actually is super talented.
She's great.
I know. I think I'm going to work until my 80 because she's going to be an artist. And I'm afraid. I'm like, all right. So.
No, this is the trap. This is the trap.
Yeah.
You gotta support it.
She'll just, after Meg's done, she'll be old enough to take on Sonoma Ceramics.
She'll be my little
department.
protege.
All right. Well, I'll let her know.
I always tell people, an artist has touched every aspect of your life. So there's jobs in the arts world. Your hat, your clothes, this table, these mics. A designer touched those. So.
She's my daughter. I love that girl.
Aww,
she's the best.
I love it. So yes, we'll be back there. And I think I'm going to wrap it up here pretty soon. But as always, Gerardo always has a question for all of our guests. And is there anything else you would like to share, Meg?
Me?
Yeah. Outside of this building, the community center?
I don't think so. I feel just super excited that you guys are putting this podcast together. It's been huge for the community. I'm loving seeing everybody stop in to be here, and the energy is palpable, and I'm excited for this tangible history that you're capturing.
So, we hope it keeps on going.
Oh, yeah.
So somebody gives you an elephant.
Oh, this question.
I like this question.
Oh, yeah.
Also, the other one was for lunch. But
okay.
I want to ask you this question. Because you seem like really, really nice. And so I want to hear your answer for this.
You're grounded, man. Grounded.
Somebody gives you an elephant. You can't sell it. You can't give it away or anything. What will you do with it?
Am I here? Is this my life?
Yeah,
The elephant is here?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm just going to love that thing, right? Probably make an attempt to get that elephant back to where it probably wants to really be living. I don't know if it really wants to be with me, but I've acquired this elephant. I'm doing my best to get it back to where it probably wants to be. But if that isn't the case, then I'm just going to do
the elephant. Did they know how big they get?
Elephants are huge.
I know.
I don't know if this is the right climate for an elephant.
I said I killed it and eat it when it was a baby.
Whoa,
that was bad.
You're living in a survivalist mode. I don't know. I don't know if the elephant can go on a plane.
What's your favorite meal?
My favorite meal. For me, I think it's less about the meal itself and more of who I'm eating it with.
Oh.
And what I'm eating it on. So I think my favorite meal is one that I can have where it doesn't feel rushed, where I've made it with some good friends and we get to eat it over some time, maybe a nice little bottle of wine, and we get to have some conversations.
I love that.
I'm not real food picky, so...
Can I ask you guys a question, which I'm really excited about, something that is coming up?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of rounding out ceramics and food. Let's talk real quickly about the pizza oven.
Oh, yeah. Stoked about it.
A pizza oven was built in the Secret Garden at the community center.
At the end of fall, we built a pizza oven. And then we got hit with a lot of cold weather and a lot of rain. And so it's been waiting for us. It's ready. It's rearing to go. It's got one final step, which is that we're going to put some beautiful tiles on top of that thing so we can make its mark in the ceramics department.
Can we make a class with kids doing tile so kids can
I love it.
Create these tiles and we can put it around the pizza or the community?
I love it. Yeah, that'd be nice. I love that. And the vision with the pizza oven is that it, again, becomes this moment of community connection, breaking bread, crossing our culinary department, our ceramics department, because a pizza oven is really just like a mini little kiln for ceramics. And
don't forget about the grill. I know you're building.
I know. We're gonna build.
Me and
Gerardo
Josh.
specific. We're gonna. Josh and Gerardo championed an extension for a brick grill, so that's going into there.
These are our dreams, and I want the garden, and of course, let's throw parties back there because it's a beautiful space, the Secret Garden.
It is.
Oh yeah, it's magic.
Yeah, I think that'll be super cool. We can have a grill in Father's Day. We can do like a class over there. We can hang out, drink beers, and throw some pizzas in there.
And you can cook anything in pizza oven. It's not pizza specific.
Yeah,
I'll do a Mexican pizza the first time. And I do my famous Caesar salad, Mexican style.
Oh, man. Okay. So stay tuned, folks, because I have a feeling coming up in late spring or summer, we're talking about having a pizza opening.
Pizza parties.
We'll stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, Meg,
thank you very much.
Thank you. And thanks for sharing your story. And come on down here and take a tour and meet Meg.
Yeah,
yep.
Come on by.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you.
You guys.